Chapter 2. The First Clue. I watched the moonlight creep over the frosty garden towards our house. 23:50, my alarm clock said, nearly midnight. But there was no way I could sleep. I hadn't even bothered getting ready for bed when Mum left. When would she be back from the police headquarters? She'd been away hours. Hannah was left in charge, but she'd gone off to her room with hardly a word. I'd just been sitting in the dark, waiting. Waiting. Why didn't Mum ring? I tried phoning her mobile, but she was always engaged. He even dialed Dad's number just to see, but all I got was a continuous dead tone, and I guessed they made him switch it off. I rested my elbows on the window ledge and looked out at the mess of plastic cups and firework casings over the silver lawn and the circle of ash where the bonfire had been. Beyond was the old well with its broken roof, and the tool shed. At the edge of the woods was a dark, humped shape, the crumbling air raid shelter Auntie Hilda had wanted Dad to fix. Over the trees, stars glittered like bits of broken glass. I could hear Hannah's muffled voice in the bedroom through the wall, probably on her mobile to her boyfriend Gavin. Fireworks sounded in the distance. My inside shrank. I saw Dad being pushed into that car with tinted windows. The image was like a piece of film I didn't want to watch, but it kept rewinding and replaying over and over. Why had they taken him? What did they think he'd done? Was it something to do with his work at the Ministry of Defence? A team of government officials came to search the house as soon as Mum managed to break the party up. Didn't waste any time. Special services people in dark clothes and dark gloves. A couple of them had MOD emblemed on their coats, the crown and the anchor and the eagle with its wings spread. They were all over, looking in every room, every drawer, every cupboard, ignoring every single one of Mum's questions. I watched them take Dad's computer and all his paperwork from the study. They'd reminded me of an army of ants I'd seen on a telly programme once, swarming over the ground and stripping a carcass. I couldn't believe how fast they were. In less than an hour, they checked everywhere, taken what they wanted and put everything else back just as it had been. Hannah had gone quiet. The stairs creaked. Old pipes hissed in the wall. Then the cold, musty house was still again, as if it was waiting to. Did the government people realise Dad was one of them? It was all such a huge blunder. Had to be. Shivering, I got under the duvet and stared at the cobwebs and the model warplanes dangling from the ceiling. This had been Dad's room when he was a kid and stayed at Aunt Hilda's. Apparently, she'd stayed with him a lot. Dad joked he'd seen more of Aunt Hilda than his own parents. He was the kid she'd never had. I liked seeing Dad's old stuff, all mixed up with mine. 100 riddles and puzzles, bumper quiz books, code cracking for fun, our big Bletchley Park book, and the mysteries of the universe he'd given me last Christmas and I'd read until the covers dropped off. Hilda had insisted on Dad having his own room and had kept it like a shrine. Not that I know Aunt Hilda much. She'd been in the home for as long as I can remember. Bones the dog always on her lap, a frail old woman who kept asking Dad who he was and if it was tea time yet, until Dad got too sad about the whole thing to take us to visit her anymore. You've got to follow Lily's trail. I heard Dad's words in my head, remembered the way he gripped my arm. But who was Lily? There was a scratching at my door and the hinges creaked. I felt a dead weight land on my chest, and there was old Bones, snuffling around me with weak little barks. I stroked the ragged patches of fur on his head, and he looked at me with his sad, droopy eyes and gave a whining yawn. My mind flicked over what else Dad had said, calling me Nathan when he only ever calls me Nate, swearing at me like that. Don't Ruddy try and hide it like you did last time. The way he'd said it, it didn't sound normal. More like he was trying to tell me something he didn't want those men to understand, only me. I remembered Dad's voice, all urgent. "You won't have long," he said, and I had a worrying feeling that I was running out of time, but with no idea what I was supposed to be doing. I guess I felt useless. I guess I wanted to do something, anything, except sit and wait and worry about Mum, when Mum would be back and if Dad would be with her, or if the phone would ring any second with news. So I thought about what Dad had said about homework, and when had I ever hidden homework? I racked my brains, and then my heart thumped as my memory came back to me. It was a few years ago. We were at Aunt Hilda's house one evening doing one of our monthly visits to check that the house hadn't been broken into and to collect the junk mail from the doormat, that kind of thing. It hadn't been history homework though, I remembered. That was it. It was some poem or other I'd to do for English. Stopping by the Chippy on a snowy evening, inspired by Robert Frost. I was in a mood and thought my poem was rubbish, and I'd wanted to get rid of it, so I'd shoved it. I scrambled out of bed and snapped on the light, squinting in the glare. I went over to the writing desk in the corner and started to run my finger over its wooden front, with its carvings of oak trees and flying birds. I was looking for a secret drawer Dad had shown me once, somewhere in the fake front, and if I could just find the catch, there. A wooden panel sprung downwards to reveal a small brass handle, and I pulled at it with such a hurry that the drawer came out right in my hand, but the drawer was empty, just like I'd left it when I'd finally retrieved my dire homework poem. What was I expecting to find anyway? Annoyed with myself, I tried to get the drawer back in, but it wouldn't go smoothly. I tried to force it closed a few times, then peered inside the narrow space to work out what the problem was, but it was too shadowy to see. I rolled up my sleeves and reached my hand right in, my fingers getting wedged between the cold wooden surface as I waggled them free. That's when I felt something. My fingertips touched a papery corner that crackled through me like electricity. I eased the edge of whatever it was towards me, worried it would rip. When it had come so far, I got a better grip and slowly slid it out. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the battered brown envelope on my lap. It had something written across the front, in looping black ink. To the occupiers of Fox Grove Cottage. There was no stamp on it or anything. I peeled the flap open and slid out the single piece of paper, going yellow with age, with more spidery handwriting scrawled across it. Help me! Look up and through the eye to see where you must go. Lily Kenley, November 1940. I stared at the paper, breathing hard. Lily again? Lily Kenley? Who is she? Her message. It was more than 70 years old. How could it be anything to do whatsoever with Dad? Follow Lily's trail, he said. I still hadn't got a clue what he was getting at, but at the start of it, the trail, I sat there, all confused, excited. The date was during the Second World War. Aunt Hilda liked to collect old stuff from back then. There were piles of 1940s things all over the house. Maybe this message had belonged to her. Look up and through the eye. That sounded like a riddle. Think literally and laterally. That's what Dad always said to me when we were doing puzzles together. The envelope was addressed to the people of Foxglove Cottage. This house. Look up. I looked up at the ceiling, but all I could see were Dad's model warplanes and a dark blue light shade. Up, up, up. The most up house, up room. That would be the messy attic library, right at the top of the house. Another dumping place for Aunt Hilda's things, and always out of bounds to me and Hannah, though we'd sneaked a look a few times. Dad had joked, you risk your life just by going through the door, death by falling hat boxes. Mum had said to keep us out until she had had a chance to tidy up. Could going up to the attic library have been what Lily meant? I refolded the message and put it in my pocket, not really sure what I was doing. I went out onto the landing, Bones limping after me. I went past the bathroom and Hannah's shut door. The wooden floor was cold through my socks, and the clock ticking echoed eerily up the stairs. I glanced out at the dark drive as I passed the window, and there was no sign of our car. Still not back, but I tried not to think about it. I went to the end of the landing, past the bedroom where Mum and Dad should have been sleeping, to the spiral staircase that led higher up the house, and started to climb the steep, curving steps. Each one made lower squeaks under my feet, and I was worried I'd wake Hannah, and that she'd want to know what I was doing, and I wouldn't really know what to tell her. All I knew was that Dad had told me not to say anything to Mum or her. But the house stayed silent, and I carried on climbing, Bones' claws scratching as he lumbered up after me. I got to the top of the stairs and followed a long, narrow corridor to the attic library. An icy draught of air came out from under the door onto my feet, and Bones must have felt it on his paws too, because he whimpered from behind me. I pressed the handle and peered in at the cramped together clutter with its splintering tea chest and jumbled furniture and packed bookshelves going high up the wall. The air was thick with the smell of dried up lavender and damp paper. There was a skylight caked in grime, and in one corner was a murky triangular window with its net curtains that looked out towards the back garden. The moon cast silver-grey light across the round, dinted hat boxes and battered leather suitcases, and the tower of faded newspapers juttering out at every angle. All Aunt Hilda's junk. There was a big clunky bike with a basket on front, and a gramophone on a wonky round table, the battered metal bucket to catch the drips when it rained, stuff I'd totally forgotten about, the wireless radio in the shape of a box, the oval-shaped tin bath, scattered ration books and records in ripped sleeves. Fusty-smelling clothes hung on the nails like floating people, gas masks dangled from the backs of broken chairs, war medals split from broken boxes, Aunt Hilda's Second World War Museum, though you'd think someone who lived through the war would want to forget about it. Like, who in their right mind would want to relive it all? Dad said she was nutty, but you could see he was cut up about her getting all forgetful and having to go into an old people's home. I felt a dull ache in my chest. When would Dad be back? The dust tumbled slowly and the cobwebs shivered on the sloping ceiling. Bare water pipes creaked and hissed, and I had heard tapping noises in the walls like Morse code messages. Bones gave a bark. I tried the light switch, but it was dead. I made myself go on. But how was I supposed to find anything in here? I'd seen the Secret Service people come up, but they must have figured out pretty quickly that nothing had been touched for decades. I eased past the rickety stepladder and weaved and squeezed slowly through the room. I rounded an old wardrobe and let out a yell. There was someone in the corner, standing in the shadow, looking at me. I saw a lamp and lunged for it, fumbling to turn it on. Fingers of light spilled out from under the tassels and up the mouldy flower wallpaper with its masses of black and white photographs in frames. I stood back panting. It was just a mannequin wearing an RAF uniform. Nutty Aunt Hilda's dressmaking dummy. I heard a noise outside, like twigs cracking. Mum? In the garden? Not very likely. Scared I'd be seen, I quickly clicked off the lamp and went over to the triangular window and edged back the frayed curtain, rubbing the dirty glass with my fist to see it. I let out a little gasp. Was that a movement? A figure? I wiped the glass more, smearing dust over the pane. No, I told myself, just the shadows playing tricks. And then I saw it. A perfect oval, about the size of my palm. A thin line scratched on the window with a smaller circular inside, like the staring pupil of an eye. I let the moonlight shine through the edges, and the tiny specks of frost in the groove melted as I ran my finger along it. It was quite deep in the glass, deliberately scratched, and then the grime inside, I reckoned it must have been there for a really long time. The weird thing was that the glass around it looked less dirty than the rest of the pane, as if it had been wiped over recently and in a hurry. Might Dad have done that to help me find the symbol? Might he have known he was going to be arrested and quickly made a plan? Water trickled on to the spongy wood of the window ledge from the dripping condensation on the pane. I looked out at the overgrown garden stretching away towards Brennan Wood, the tool shed, the hunched up air raid shelter, the old brick well Mum had forbidden us going near. I squinted and moved my head to the side. I craned my neck. The eye symbol glinted. Look through the eye and see where you must go. I hesitated. I bobbed my head, leaned it to one side and back, looking through the sign. My breath caught in my throat because when I looked a certain way, there was the sound of the car outside. Headlights swiped the garden. Mum home with Dad? With one last glance at the window, I tore down the stairs, my mind fizzing like a firework, the oval of the eye lined up with the oval of the well. Not just a bit of a match, not even a close match. The edges matched perfectly.